Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up video. I read 7 books this month. I'm just going to show them to you, the overview, and then I'll talk a little bit about each one. So it'll be a good time. A real good time. These are all the books I read this month. It looks like a lot, and it is a lot, but sort of ignore the last one because I didn't read this whole thing. I just read part of it. So, because it's a bind-up of I'll get into it later, okay? The first book I read this month was Insurgent by Veronica Roth. This was a reread. Don't worry, relax. If you remember, which you probably don't, but anyway. Last month I read Divergent, or reread Divergent, because the movie came out. I decided to keep going with the series for a reason which I'll explain with my next book, Allegiant. I mostly wanted to reread it because I hadn't read Allegiant yet. I'm pausing for your gasp. I'm going to explain myself now. I read Divergent a while ago, like a few summers ago. I was on vacation and I loved it so much that I immediately went and bought Insurgent. I immediately picked it up like the day after I finished Divergent and I read it in a day. So I just breezed through Divergent and Insurgent and I loved it. And then I waited a really long time for this book, right? And it comes out and I buy it immediately, and then as I'm starting to read it, I realize I forgot everything that happened in the first 2 books. Don't know how that's possible, but this is just what happens in my life. So I knew that I had to reread Divergent and Insurgent before I could read this. And you know, those are 2 pretty long books. They're each like, what, 500 pages or so? So I finally reread, and then I read this for the first time, and I'm not gonna post a review because I feel like this has been out for such a long time that everyone knows already, but I didn't like this book, and it wasn't just because of the ending. I just thought it was a kind of disappointing. Not a lot happened. There was really only 2 big events, and they weren't even that big, and it was weird, like switching from Triss and Tobias's point of view. Like their voices sounded the same and it was hard to distinguish which one was which. So when I first started reading this, I was like, oh, it's not so bad. I don't know why everyone complained about it. But then as I keep reading, I'm like, when's the action gonna start? When's the action? It's not gonna start. It's not really starting. It's never gonna start. It didn't start, really. Like, if we're really honest. It just wasn't good. It didn't work for me. No. I shouldn't even need to explain this because everyone should know. Anyway, moving on to happier things. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Nice light read after the disappointing in Allegiant, which, side note, I forgot to mention, didn't cry that much. I really did not cry that much. No emotion. Was not having it. Okay, now back to Harry Potter. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you know you're better, right? You know that. Oh, this is bad. I shouldn't be comparing books. Okay, stop. I'm talking about them like they're my children. Like, I mean, I don't even have anything to say. I'm still rereading Harry Potter. I'm in Goblet of Fire. The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger, yeah, maybe, don't know. Okay. This book follows the romance of Claire and Henry. Pretty average couple, you know, except for the fact that Henry is a time traveler, and it's involuntary. He doesn't want to time travel, he just sort of does. He just disappears in random moments and pops up in different years, and he's always naked because the clothes don't travel with him, and he gets beat up a lot, and he learns to steal things from places because he needs clothes and food. So sometimes Henry is gone for days or hours, it just depends. Throughout his timeline, Claire is this constant presence in his life. He's just drawn to her and they end up getting married, which isn't a surprise because it's basically stated from the very beginning that they're getting married. Well, Claire's life is linear, Henry's is not. He's always different ages when he pops up and she's always looking forward to him, and it's kind of weird. It's really hard to explain, it's kind of confusing. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like this book so much. I mean, I liked it. Oh god, I should just do a review for it. Okay, I'm gonna do a review for this, but basically I liked it, but there's definitely some flaws. Carrie by Stephen King, it looks way more impressive than it actually is, because this book is huge. It has Salem's Law and The Shining, which I haven't read yet, sadly. I should, but it's heavy and it's hard to read. It really is. I should sell this. How do you not know the story of Carrie? Anyway, okay, I'll just explain it. Carrie is about a girl who is telekinetic. Is that? Yeah, telekinetic. So, you know, if you don't know what that means, which where have you been? That means she can lift objects with her mind and do weird things. So Carrie is sort of an outcast at school. She's made fun of a lot. Doesn't have many friends. Her mom is like ultra religious and abusive. But Carrie has these powers which people don't know about, and when she gets angry or emotional or whatever, her powers go like berserk. And then there's this whole prom scene, the famous prom night. You should know the story of Carrie. She gets invited to prom with this guy who only asks her out of pity because his girlfriend made him. So she goes to prom and things go terribly wrong. It rhymed, kinda. Anyway, so I'd read Carrie a while ago, or I thought I had, but then I was looking through this book because I want to read the other two stories in here, and I realized I hadn't finished Carrie. There were still 20 or 30 pages left that I hadn't read yet, which is bad, but it was like post prom night. It was sort of like how prom night affected the town, so I was like, oh god, I gotta finish this up. So I finished it, and I'm still putting it in here because it counts. I finished a book. Honestly, really great, loved it. Wasn't that scary, but it was still a good story, but it was pretty good. It isn't really a letdown. It's pretty like, ugh, chills. Yeah, Stephen King, you are awesome. The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This was an accidental novel. If you don't know, Neil's wife was away recording an album and he was lonely, so he decided he would write her a short story. And he figured, you know, she doesn't like fantasy, which is odd because he predominantly writes fantasy. He decides he's going to write a book that she would like. And she likes him, and she likes feelings. So he decided he would make a book that has a lot of him in it and a lot of feelings in it. And that's how this book started out, which I think is really special. He began writing this book, and it was going to be just a short story. But then it started to become more than a short story, and then it became a novel. So it's his accidental novel, which I think is kind of awesome. It shows how sometimes the best things we make are the ones we don't really plan. It's about this nameless main character who visits his hometown for a funeral, and as he comes back home, he has this rush of memories that come to him as he's visiting this old lake at the end of the lane. Lake or ocean, same thing. And he just remembers what happened to him as a child in this town. Most of the story takes place in the past when our nameless main character was a child, and it's really, really great. This book just flows so well. It's beautifully written. It felt really effortless too, like the story. It just came out naturally, and it was so cool. It made you really think about the world and how easily bendable it can be, I guess. It's kind of weird. It just makes you think about, you know, is the world as permanent as they think it is? I'm not going to do a review for it because, again, I can't formulate my thoughts correctly on this book, but I can say I loved it, and I can say I loved it. Those are all the books I read in the month of March. I'm not going to be telling you what books I'm going to be reading in the month of April. March, April, yeah. And the reason for this is I have a hard time picking what books I want to read. I often change my mind and I'll jump from book to book. I'm not doing any to be read stuff. Maybe in the future I will, but I'm not going to do wrap-ups and to be read. I'm just doing wrap-ups because I can't restrict myself. Like, I know I won't go by what I say I'm gonna read. I can give you a general idea. Like, this month I'm reading The Color Purple by Alice Walker because it's for school, so I'm definitely reading this. And I'm probably gonna try to read Harry Potter, maybe some other stuff. Well, obviously some other stuff, but that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye!